The march to Jerusalem lasted years. Tens of thousands began the journey. Many didn't survive it. Raymond IV led one of the largest forces of the First Crusade, pushing through starvation, disease, and continuous attrition warfare. Entire regions were stripped just to keep moving. By 1099, the army reached Jerusalem. The siege lasted weeks under constant pressure. When the walls finally fell, the city was overwhelmed. Chroniclers described streets filled with bodies, blood reportedly pooling in narrow passages after hours of close-quarter combat. Thousands were killed in a single day. Control came instantly, but at a cost that reshaped the region. This wasn't just conquest, it was total collapse of resistance. Jerusalem didn't just fall, it transformed completely. Godfrey of Bouillon stood at the center of that moment in 1099. Instead of calling himself king, he chose a symbolic title, but power remained absolute. Urban combat turned into systematic clearing of resistance inside the city walls. Estimates suggest thousands were killed within hours of entry. The event didn't stabilize the region, it intensified it. Godfrey's leadership secured the Crusader foothold, but it also locked the region into decades of sustained conflict. What was taken quickly had to be defended constantly. Baldwin I turned survival into expansion. After becoming king of Jerusalem, he launched repeated campaigns across the Levant. Coastal strongholds like Acre and Beirut became strategic targets. Each victory expanded territory, but also increased exposure. His forces relied on continuous military pressure to maintain control. Supply lines stretched, resistance intensified. Expansion wasn't stability, it was sustained conflict. By the end of his reign, the Crusader state was larger but constantly under threat. Every gain created a new front line. Richard the Lionheart led with precision and discipline. At Arsuf in 1191, around 20,000 troops collided in direct engagement. His infantry absorbed repeated cavalry harassment before launching a coordinated countercharge. The impact broke the opposing formation. Casualties mounted quickly during the collapse phase. It was one of the most effective battlefield executions of the Crusades, but even decisive victories had limits. Despite repeated success, Jerusalem remained out of reach. Tactical dominance didn't translate into strategic control. Some leaders followed rules. Reynald of Châtillon escalated beyond them. During active truces, he launched raids on caravans transporting thousands in goods and personnel, violating established agreements. These attacks weren't opportunistic. They were intentional escalations. Captures, executions, and resource seizures became part of his approach. When he threatened routes connected to Mecca, the conflict expanded beyond regional limits. His actions contributed directly to the chain reaction leading to Hattin in 1187. After the defeat, he was executed by Saladin himself. A targeted response. His actions didn't just provoke conflict, they accelerated it at scale. Antioch became a prolonged siege environment. 8 months of attrition, food shortages, disease, collapse of conditions. Bohemond shifted strategy from direct assault to internal compromise. A single breach opened the city. Control changed instantly. But the situation reversed just as quickly. A counter-siege trapped the Crusader forces inside. Starvation returned. Control shifted twice under extreme pressure. His success showed that even decisive breakthroughs don't eliminate risk. They often create new ones. Tancred expanded territory rapidly. His campaigns covered large distances in short time frames. Speed created tactical advantage, but it also created structural weakness. Smaller garrisons held larger areas. That imbalance increased vulnerability. Cities taken quickly became difficult to defend. Local resistance reorganized. Pressure built constantly. His expansion increased Crusader reach, but stretched it thin. Rapid gains often led to unstable control. Frederick Barbarossa led over 15,000 troops into the Third Crusade. His army was structured, disciplined, and logistically prepared, but the campaign ended abruptly. In 1190, he drowned during a river crossing. Within days, cohesion collapsed. Thousands turned back, others scattered. Leadership loss triggered system failure. His death showed how dependent large military operations were on centralized command. Without it, structure dissolved immediately. Louis IX launched the Seventh Crusade with around 15,000 troops. Initial landings in Egypt succeeded, but deeper inland, the environment shifted. Heat, disease, and stretched supply lines weakened the force. Eventually, they were surrounded. Louis himself was captured in 1250. A king reduced to a bargaining position, the campaign ended completely. Planning couldn't compensate for changing conditions. The system failed under pressure. The siege of Acre lasted nearly 2 years. Thousands died during prolonged combat and disease outbreaks. Philip II contributed to the early success of the campaign, but he made a strategic withdrawal, returning to France to secure his own position. His decision reflected a different calculation. Sustained warfare abroad weakened domestic control, leaving the battlefield preserved power elsewhere. Hugh's campaign destabilized early. Storms scattered his fleet. Losses occurred before engagement even began. By arrival, his force was reduced, influence weakened. He joined the campaign but never recovered position. His outcome highlights a different factor. Not all failures happen in battle. Some begin before the conflict starts. Tyre became a defensive stronghold after Hattin. Conrad held the city against repeated attempts. His leadership prevented total regional collapse, but power remained unstable. In 1192, he was assassinated shortly after gaining authority. His removal shifted control instantly. Even successful defense couldn't secure long-term stability. His condition progressed visibly, but he still commanded. At Montgessard in 1177, fewer than 5,000 Crusader troops faced a force exceeding 20,000. The outcome should have been decisive. It wasn't. Baldwin ordered a direct charge at the critical moment. The impact broke the formation. Retreat turned into collapse. Thousands were killed or scattered. It became one of the most lethal reversals of the Crusades, but Baldwin understood the limitation. He wasn't securing the future, he was delaying the inevitable collapse. At Hattin in 1187, around 20,000 troops were cut off from water under extreme heat. Dehydration weakened the force before engagement. Combat began under already failing conditions. By the end, most were killed or captured. The loss opened the path to Jerusalem. One decision created total collapse. Misjudging conditions proved more lethal than the enemy itself. Edward I operated with smaller, targeted forces of a few thousand troops. By this stage, large-scale crusades had become less effective. His campaigns focused on maintaining influence rather than expansion. Engagements were limited, calculated. The shift reflected a change in strategy. Large-scale lethal campaigns had given way to controlled operations. The era of mass mobilization was ending. Different leaders, different battles, same pattern. Power during the Crusades never stabilized. It expanded, fractured, and shifted constantly. Victories created new risks. Losses created new openings. And no matter how strong a leader was, control remained temporary. Because systems built on continuous conflict don't settle, they escalate. And once escalation begins, it rarely reverses on its own.